Welcome to the Zweig Letter podcast, putting architectural, engineering, planning, and environmental consulting advice and guidance in your ear. Zweig Group's team of experts have spent more than 3 decades elevating the industry by helping AEP and environmental consulting firms thrive. And these podcasts deliver invaluable management, industry, client, marketing, and HR advice directly to you, free of charge. The Zweig Letter podcasts, elevating the design industry one episode at a time.
Hey folks, and welcome to another episode of the Zweig Letter podcast. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and I'm excited to be with you for a new episode. I'm sitting again in front of somebody, a live individual, so it's exciting to be able to do that. I'm here with my colleague, Kyle Ahern. Kyle is the awards manager at Zweig Group. Many of you that have traveled and been to Elevate conferences or Hot Firm events have probably run into Kyle in the past, and I remember Kyle when he was just an intern. So I'm starting to feel a little old here, but nonetheless, we are here in Zweig's empty office in downtown Fayetteville, and it's only empty because most people are still working from home, as Kyle does, and we just agreed to meet here. So it's good to be in front of somebody. So
yes,
Kyle, how you doing?
Doing great, Randy. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely, man. It's so good to see you, and I'm glad to be here today. I'd love for you just to kind of give the audience. You've been on a previous episode of the Zweig Letter podcast, and I can't remember what episode number it is because we're up to like 192 now,
right?
So we're getting up there, but I'll make sure that I put that link in the show notes for that episode that you were on previously. But why don't you just kind of share with the audience a little bit about your role at Zweig, what you're doing, and just about the awards program.
Yeah, sounds great. Well, like you said, I'm the awards manager at Zweig Group. Been in this role for about 5 years now, and I basically oversee and manage the entire process, start to finish. It starts basically once we get back from the conference, we kind of sit down and regroup and look at all of the awards, areas where we can improve, areas that were a success the previous year. So a lot of that is the Best Firms to Work For survey. That's our annual employee policy, workplace award, and that involves a huge employee survey, the biggest one in the industry, actually. And then there's also a corporate survey involved in that as well. And then we also have our Hot Firm Award that we look at every year, and that's based off the Inc. 500, 5000 list, and that's purely just revenue-based. And then we also have our Marketing Excellence Award, which honors outstanding marketing in the industry. And then we have our Rising Stars Award, which actually was previously, or before it was mostly just in our C+S Engineer magazine. They kind of handled that. And then a couple of years ago, we brought that into the main Zweig Group Awards fold and opened that up to all AEC professionals. So not just civil and structural engineers anymore. So that's open to any professional in the industry. And then we have our Jerry Allen Courage and Leadership Award, which I know you're very familiar with, and that honors courageous leadership of any person in the industry, no matter their role, who's had to, battle adversity or bring their company through, tough times, or who've just shown outstanding leadership for their company. And then we have our newest award, which is the Top New Venture Award, which honors those, newer firms, less than 5 years old, who not only are succeeding revenue-wise, but have a great backstory and a great growth story as well.
Yeah, I love that because, I don't know that we ever really took the time to acknowledge those up and coming firms, right? You didn't acknowledge anyone until they really made a lot of noise in the industry. Right. So I think that's important to do. And so, all of these awards, this is something that Zweig has been doing for a long time. I mean, the best firm to work for, hot firm. I mean, all of those are awards that have been around the block, if you will.
Yes.
And so they have legs and they will travel. And so, what are some of the things that you've taken away from this since you've been in this role about the importance of these awards and how it impacts firms that participate in the process?
Yeah, sure. So one of the pillars of our mission, Elevate the Industry, is celebrating. And that, these awards really go a long way into achieving that pillar of our mission. And, it's important for firms to work on themselves and improve and make sure they're always, as Calvin Ladner used to say, if you're not growing, you're dying. So, but that's important. But it's also important to celebrate your achievements and, celebrating being a best firm to work for, creating outstanding workplace for your employees is something that I think needs to be more widely celebrated because that's so important. Work is such a big part of your employees' lives that if you're creating somewhere where they enjoy going on a day-to-day basis, then that's something you got to celebrate. And then, celebrating growth and creating new opportunities for your employees to, have better paying jobs and more opportunities for people to come in and work. And so if you're growing and have outstanding revenue growth, that's worth celebrating as well. And then, marketing excellence, that's an area people tend to overlook. We know the importance of marketing at Zweig Group, and we always push that in our advisory services, the importance of marketing. But sometimes it's tough to tell that to a firm when they're looking at marketing as overhead. So we want to celebrate the outstanding marketing in the industry, and then the up and coming firms and the up and coming individuals in the industry. It's all great to celebrate all of those different aspects. And so I think that's one of the best things about the awards is just celebrating all of the unique and great aspects of this industry.
Yeah, no, I agree wholeheartedly. And you're right about the celebration piece, especially for marketing, which, like you said, sometimes gets poo-pooed on because it's not a line item under the utilizations part of things within a design firm. But it is where the rubber meets the road, where business happens and where deals are done. And I have always historically, and since I've been involved with this industry since the 90s, recognized that a lot of firms didn't celebrate the wins.
Right.
And that's what you have to do. And I think, this program, the awards program as a whole, like you said, gives people a chance to celebrate those wins, but then it also acknowledges the people that are kind of maybe lower tier within the organization, but are pulling their weight and making things happen
Definitely.
on a daily basis. And without that acknowledgement, I mean, you miss out on a chance to really kind of build up your workforce and the people that are on your team. So
yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And I think, the celebration isn't lost on us at Zweig Group either. Back when we had our office with everybody working in it, we had the gong, and every time we get a project win or even other types of wins within our company, you gather everybody together and you hit that gong, and it is a good way to celebrate. So I think celebrating is very important, and the awards certainly play that role in the industry.
So over the last 18 months that we've been dealing with this pandemic, what has replaced the gong for you guys? Because I know you guys have had some big wins lately. I just noticed on LinkedIn the other day, I think Jamie Claire had posted another successful M&A transaction that went down that Zweig was a part of, and you guys have really been moving and shaking. So how do you kind of replicate that in a virtual environment?
It's tough, but we have the emails that go out to the whole company celebrating each win that we get, and then we have people who either are in the office working who can still hit the gong for those who aren't here, or people will send videos of just the gong ringing or virtual gong or something like that. But then we also get together and have like Zoom calls that we call water cooler meetings now, and so we get together and celebrate any wins that we have that way, and so it's good. You got to just find a way, you adapt, and I think we've done a good job of doing that over the last 18 months or so.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody listening to this podcast, myself, yourself, we've all had to adapt, and so there have been some major changes in the last 18 months. That is for sure. It's more of an understatement. And in that same line of thinking, what have you seen in terms of the change of the awards program, and maybe even some of the data that you've been pulling in, like pre-pandemic versus what you're seeing now?
Yeah.
What are some of the major trends that you're seeing?
Yeah, well, so I've been able to dive into the 2021 data that we really just closed and kind of got cleaned up, and everything that goes into getting it organized. You have 13,000 people take a over 100 question survey. There's a lot to dive into. So the biggest thing is just across the board, everything is up.
Really?
Almost every single question across the board was up, and even up higher than 2019 levels, because things in 2020 dropped off, and as we really expected them to, because this survey took place right about the exact time that people were starting to have to, work from home and adjust. And so we expected, okay, there's going to be a drop off. And so it was really exciting to see basically everything rebound back to and even above 2019 levels, which, pre-pandemic levels. So that was exciting to see. And one area in particular that was good was feeling secure in their job. I think a lot of people, were very nervous last year, but to see the score bounce back the way that it did this year, I mean, it's at the highest point that it's been since we've been tracking the data. So that's a real testament to the people in the industry, to the firms in the industry, to the leaders in the industry that are helping their employees feel very secure in their job, even through what probably everyone in this industry would describe as the most challenging time that anyone's had to go through.
Yeah, I mean, I think in all of our lives, right? I mean, because I don't know that there's too many of us that are running design firms that were around during the influenza pandemic. So we all have to say that this coronavirus COVID-19 pandemic has been a game changer for sure on a number of levels. So talk a little bit about, because I always like to focus on, I mean, hot firm is great. The top line revenue, when you look at firms grow, and you can easily, I mean, that's an easy thing to look at and measure. But when you start talking about what makes a best firm, right, to work for, and the design space, what would you say I'm a young design professional. I've got an organization with 15, 20 employees, and I ultimately endeavor to be considered a best firm to work for. What are some of the markers of a best firm to work for?
Yeah, I think the great thing about our data set is we have the ability to break it down into those different demographics. So we can look at the younger generation and look at those up and coming professionals and see what is most important to them, really. And it's really investment in their careers. That's what the younger generation are looking for. Yeah, everybody wants the compensation and the benefits to be on the same level, but that's pretty straightforward across the board. It's the investment in their career, investment in their future, setting up training opportunities, having internal trainings, lunch and learns, other types of, bringing people in for professional development. That's what is setting the best firms to work for apart from the rest of the field, is they're taking the time to listen to their employees and figure out what they want, but also investing in their careers and their futures.
Yeah, and I've always told people that, the firms that I see that are the most successful take time for professional and personal development. And that's basically the indication if a firm is doing that, they are at least have some understanding of where their people are and what they need, right? Because everybody's never, you hire somebody within your design firm, they're not the finished product. They are where they are at that instant in time. The reality is that you ultimately want them to get to a place down the line where they're a thriving member of your organization. And sometimes from when you hire them to when you get to that point, there's a lot of work that goes on in the process, in the background. And I call it, that's the phase where you go through, that's where all the real work happens. And that's where firms that take the time to do what I call that real work, that professional development on a regular basis. Maybe you set up a university within your company where you provide, ongoing training,
right?
Both on a professional level, right? So that those individuals can be the best version of themselves for the work that they're doing, but also on a personal level so that they can just be the best version of themselves, period, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's kind of like a little bit of both. So tell me, what are some of the real markers that you saw in this most recent best firm to work for that really stood out for you outside of just the personal and professional development? What else made a best firm to work for?
Yeah. So the leadership as well. The questions regarding leadership, I trust my firm's leadership. I trust the future direction of the firm. My firm is ethical. Those questions were way up this year. And I think maybe it was the pandemic that really brought out the true leaders in these firms. And so those best firms to work for really, really scored well in those leadership areas. And I think that comes down to, having great managers, and then all the way through the C-suite level, and having that leadership in place. Because that trickles down and ripples out throughout the entire company. So that was probably the area that I saw, that really stuck out to me was those best firms to work for. Really, their employees felt really strongly about the leadership in their firms.
Yeah, I mean, I think that speaks to obviously job security, right? You feel good about where you work. You feel like everybody that's running things has it under control. And as you mentioned that, I think about some of the people that I connected with, like Chris Huckabee from Huckabee and Ozzie Nelson, specifically, two individuals that I know very well that have hugely successful design firms. And one of the first things that I asked them what they implemented as soon as this pandemic happened to kind of stay connected with their people. Ozzie started doing weekly video messages to everybody, just to kind of let them know what he was thinking, what the leadership of Nelson was thinking, and then ultimately, what he wanted to provide some encouragement.
Yeah.
Same thing for Chris Huckabee. I mean, just they amped up the communication. Right. So it wasn't like, what we have seen historically in the industry is that sometimes leadership and those in the C-suite tend to regress in the area of communication, where they don't focus on it enough, or they just assume that people will kind of figure things out through either osmosis or just through the water cooler talk. And unfortunately, as a leader, you can't get ahead of any narrative unless you control that narrative. And you can't control that narrative unless you're the one at the forefront providing the information and the message.
Right. And it's funny that you bring that up because, we saw the drop in scores really across the board last year, but communication was up. And I think the pandemic was forced everybody to, like we said earlier, adapt. And I think communication really just took off to a level that, it may have even gotten to the point of over communicating. I know at one point at Zweig Group, we were doing like weekly all hands meeting. And I think we got to the point where we were like, okay, maybe we need to just back off just a little bit. And, of course, you keep that door open for anyone who wants to communicate. But I think at the beginning of the pandemic, everybody did a great job of trying to communicate with all of their employees. And then unfortunately, that's the one area from 2020 to 2021 data that we saw the biggest drop was effective communication. So, you wonder if, everybody was gung-ho at the beginning, but then kind of pulled back and then regressed too much. And now, people are going back to, the firm isn't communicating well enough with us right now. So, you hope people will be able to rebound and get back to, all right, we got to make sure everybody's on the same page and we're communicating everything across the board.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's one of the areas where any thriving organization, I don't care if you're a design firm or anything else, if you allow communication fatigue to set in, you've missed it. and you've got to kind of get that back and reignite that level of communication, that level of contact and interaction, because with that, anything's possible. But if you don't have it, then, you kind of leave your people to you being the leader of a company or an organization or a department, leave your people to their own devices.
Right.
And that's not always a good thing. It's just not, you want to take that away. And like you said, even Zweig tried to overcompensate a little bit with the regular all hands meetings, which is important. But I think if you have solid people around you, you can trust them to do the right thing. And I think they will return the favor to you as a leader, that, hey, they'll get their work done. They'll do what they have to do. And then when you check in with them, you know that anything that you expect to get done does get done.
Right.
So, you don't have to constantly check in and say, how's it going? Are you done with that report? Are you working on the next report? What are you thinking about doing next week? You can walk and chew gum at the same time.
Right.
So, yeah.
Yes.
So I think it's really important. So tell me, anything that you notice with the top new ventures, less than 5 years old, any changes between pre-pandemic information and what has happened since the pandemic?
Well, we actually haven't gotten into that award yet.
Okay.
And so I am very interested, because that award closes June 30th. So just here in a couple of days. So I'm very interested to get in and read those entries compared to last year and even compared to 2019 to see, how these new firms who when these people started these businesses, they probably didn't think, oh, I'm going to have to deal with a global pandemic. So it's going to be interesting to hear their story, because, these well-established firms, they pivot and they adapt, and, they have the infrastructure in place to do that. But these new firms, what did they have to do to survive? I think that's what everybody's mindset was last year, was to survive. So it'll be interesting to see what they had in store, in 2020 for these new firms.
Right. Yeah, I think that'll be good. How many, typically, especially for the new venture, since that's a newer award, how many, do you get a lot of entries for that?
We don't get a lot for that, and we have just one winner for that award, and so you don't want a lot of people to apply, and then you're like, well, sorry, yeah, thanks, but no thanks. You didn't make it this year. It is one that I think we would be open to adapting in the future. If it was one that was gaining a lot of traction, because of course we want those new firms to be celebrated. You're going out on a limb to start this new company. That's worth celebrating in and of itself. So, it's one that I'd like to personally see take off. It's something we'll have to work on at Zweig Group ourselves to make happen.
Yeah. Okay. Well, and now I'm going to make it a little difficult for you, because I want to ask you the question that I know a lot of people throw in your face when you approach them about being a part of an award program. What is outside? Because for some people it might be like, oh, well, this is really just self-serving. I participate in the award, but it's, maybe I shouldn't be. Why be involved in these awards, period? Right?
Yeah.
What do you normally, how do you retort or respond to somebody that comes to you and asks you that?
Yeah, so that is a very good question. I talk to people probably most about best firms to work for, and it's been fun to watch the change in that award in the last 5 years. When I started, it was great. We want to be considered a best firms to work for, and now people love the award still. But the data that they get back from the award, because we send everyone who participates this huge report that shows all of their employee survey data from the big survey, and they get that back whether they're a best firms to work for winner or not. And so it's been fun to watch, it go from, we love this award, this is what we go for, to the award is great, we love getting the award, but we also want the data to learn how we can improve as a company as a whole. What areas do we have that are weaknesses? What areas are strengths that we can continue to build on? And so that's what I tell people is you're getting, not only could you be an award winner, that looks great, for recruiting, for even for winning jobs, I would say. But you're also getting data back to help your firm, grow and improve and move forward.
Yeah. And I always tell people that benchmark is important.
Yes.
Right. I mean, you need to get that information to know where you are. I remember when Mark, at the time when we were Zweig White and Associates, and Mark and Fred White were applying for both for the Inc. At the time it was the Inc. 500, right? Because now it's 5,000, so it's a little different. But it was, the importance of it really was, as a company, to get a benchmark as to how we are compared to other ventures that are comparable to us, and where do we stand and where do we want to be, right?
Yes.
And so, you have all these different categories, but it's always nice to kind of see how if you stand out in the crowd, and,
right.
and is there room for improvement? And I think, if nothing else, the data that Zweig provides for any participant in any of these awards is invaluable.
Right.
Because it does give you that feedback, and we're not operating in a vacuum. We are actually getting feedback that tells us whether we're on the right path or whether we need to make some course corrections, some changes. And even with the best firms to work for, those firms that participate and even place in the top, there's still room for improvement, right? Because every organization is always getting better, ideally, right?
Yes.
That would be the plan. So participating in this program gives you a chance to kind of fine tune your offerings and fine tune the way that you operate as an organization.
Yes, and I think you brought up an important point of benchmarking. And even if you participate in hot firm and marketing excellence, you don't get the report back that you do in best firms to work for, but you get to see how those areas of your firm, areas where you might think are strong, but you can kind of see see how you would stack up against the competition. And that's a great thing about having the in-person event, is we do get to showcase some of the marketing excellence pieces that we get to see at those in-person events. So then people can come by and say, okay, that's a good idea. Not that you want to be giving away your marketing secrets, but it's a good way to build and enhance marketing throughout the industry.
Yeah, and honestly, there is nothing new under the sun. So a lot of stuff that you think, oh, I'm going to be the first to do this, somebody else has probably done it. Maybe they haven't done it as good as you, but they've done it. That Marketing and Excellence Award, I always liked participating in that part of the event, because I remember going around the table and looking at everybody's, marketing ideas and how they presented stuff for proposals or for other things. And there was a lot of really good ideas put out there. And I think it's important because you also get to share that information at the event. And so people can kind of see what your peers are doing, how they're doing it. Maybe they have a bigger, better mousetrap. And I think there's always something to be learned from looking at what other people are doing. Not that you have to copy them, but imitation is the sincerest form of flattery. And sometimes it's good to imitate some people that have had some success, because invariably some of those breadcrumbs will fall on your plate and you can benefit from it. So
that's right.
Yeah. So I think that would work. And then, of course, you have the Jerry Allen Courage and Leadership Award, which is a tremendous award. And it's in the name of an individual that I actually worked with. And so, again, I feel really old. I mean, he passed away in the early 2000s, and Jerry and Mark were very close. And Jerry gave Mark one of his first jobs in the design industry as a whole when Mark was at Carter and Burgess there in Fort Worth, Texas. And, Jerry was an outstanding guy, but he was anybody that wins this award is definitely a different kind of leader.
Yes.
Meaning that they don't take a lot of mess, that their word is their bond. And, they definitely care about the people that are around them and want to see people be successful and have something to show for it. Right? Because Jerry made a lot of very successful people around him, not just successful within the scope of the work that they did, but also financially successful. And I still talk to some of these people to this day, and they have nothing but praise for this man. That's he's passed on, but his legacy still lives around in so many people. And I really applauded Zweig for doing this award, because it means so much to this industry to be able to look to individuals that have that type of sensibility as a leader. And I can think of the different people like John McAdams and others that have been previous award winners that are just stand-up individuals.
Yes.
And so that award is really important, and that is a merit-based award for sure. I mean, make no mistake about it. There isn't any. I mean, there's not a whole lot of voting that goes on there. You kind of look, and like they say, the proof is in the pudding.
Yes.
And you can look at the work that people have put in by the sweat of their brow, and be able to make some comment about what somebody's like. And so I certainly encourage in the future, those of you listening to this, if you think that you have a Jerry Allen type leader, that you should throw their name into the hat.
Yes.
And make a case for why they should be considered for the Courage and Leadership Award, because I think it's one of the most prestigious and special awards in the design industry.
Right.
Am I overstating?
No, I think you're right on. I think you're spot on, and it shows, for those who have been to the in-person event, and have seen the video testimonial that we put up about each winner from people within their firm, from those who work with these leaders every day. It's extremely powerful. There's raw emotion that goes into it. There's it's all very real and very powerful, and so. I'm excited to look at the entries for this year. That one's about to be closing as well. So excited to look at the entries, and we get a number of people, high level leaders involved in picking that winner every year. So I'm excited for that this year too.
Yeah, and I want to give a shout out to somebody whose name you mentioned, Calvin Ladner, who passed away in 2020. Calvin was a friend of mine. He was a Jerry Allen Courage and Leadership Award winner. He ran LJA down in Houston, Texas, big firm, 45 locations, almost 1,400 people. But Calvin is he left some very big shoes to fill. And if you wanted to look at the example of the type of leader that was typified by Jerry Allen, it would be somebody like Calvin Ladner. So shout out to his family, shout out to the LJA family, and we certainly appreciate having examples like him in our lives.
Right,
yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's cool. So anything else that you want to tease before we close out this particular episode about the future of awards at Zweig Group?
Well, I mean, just some exciting things that we're doing with best firms to work for. We've developed a few tools that allow us to not just look at demographics industry wide, but we can break down demographics firm by firm now. So if a firm was interested, every firm has those areas of weakness, like we said earlier, but it's not firm wide and areas of weakness. So if you can pinpoint it and then go to work on that area, or pinpoint areas of strength and build out from there, then I think that only serves to improve your firm. So, that's an exciting tool. We're offering full analysis of best firms to work for, employee survey results. And then we're always looking to not just improve but expand our awards program as well. So I'm always open to ideas and suggestions, especially from people in the industry. So always happy to talk to anyone who wants to pick up the phone or shoot me an email about anything that we can be doing.
That's great. And what's your email? What's the best
email Kyle Ahern at zweiggroup.com, and that's AHERN as in Nancy.
Yeah, KAHERN at zweiggroup.com. Definitely reach out to Kyle, and he'll get back to you in a hot minute. So he won't let any grass grow under his feet, and you'll hear from him right away. So I certainly want to encourage you to do that. I did want to just kind of tease out this fall there will be an Elevate virtual conference.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And there will be a live event.
Yes.
Like a real live event.
Big,
not like a
event.
Limited, like there's going to be 16 people in a room, socially distanced by, 12-foot barricades. There's going to be a real event, right?
Real event, yeah. So the virtual event is going to be 4 weeks long. That's starting September 13th. It's just going to be, maybe 1 or 2 sessions a day for those 4 weeks. So it's very easy to kind of pick and choose. If you have a couple hours one day or a few days throughout the week, it's going to be high level content. It was last year. People raved about it. I think we had over 1,800 people attend those virtual sessions. So that, and it's free. So that's open to anyone within your firm who wants to join any of those sessions. And then, we're having the full Elevate AEC conference this year, which we're so excited about. And people I've talked to are very excited about getting back to it because that really is our big celebration. I mean, you've seen the light show that Chad Kleinens, our CEO, likes to put on for the awards show. He describes it as a mix between an award ceremony and a rock show, and I think that is spot on. So we're excited to get back to this year, and of course, there's going to be outstanding speakers and breakout sessions and networking. So just very, very excited to get back to in-person events for those who are comfortable and want to join us there in Denver.
Yeah, and I would encourage everybody to participate in both of these events, and for sure, what we talked about earlier in this conversation about, creating opportunities for professional and personal development for all of your people, the Elevate virtual conference is the best way to do that. I mean, you can make sure that all of your people sign on. It's just like what I tell people. I mean, you're listening to the Zweig Letter podcast, but so many of you haven't subscribed to the Zweig Letter. It comes out free every Monday.
That's right.
Comes out at 12 noon. It drops in your email inbox. You can read it at your leisure. It's about 12 pages of some of the best content and information. And Kyle, you write articles.
That's right.
There.
I've got one coming up too that I just finished.
Yeah. So, and I've written a ton of articles in there. And so, you can find something for everything that you're dealing with within the design industry space, right within the walls of the Zweig Letter newsletter, one of the oldest running newsletters in the design industry. So, certainly want to encourage you to take advantage of that. Not only can you sign yourself up, but if you want, you can email Kyle, or you can email Sarah Sparkman at sparkman@zweiggroup.com and just say, hey, Sarah, I want to sign my whole company up for the Zweig Letter. You can send her an Excel spreadsheet with the contact information. It will go right into the database, and everybody on your team will get that. And you'll be the better for it because you will create a workforce. You'll create people on your team that are much more aware of what's happening in the design industry.
Yeah, I know I've learned an unbelievable amount from the Zweig Letter. So yeah, definitely subscribe, anyone and everyone that you can.
That was my study guide. When I first got in the industry in 97, Mark was like, just read what I write and read this information and read some of our books. And that's what I did. I read several of the books that and publications that Zweig put out, but I also read the newsletter religiously. And I still read it to this day, because I love enjoying reading Mark's articles and everybody else's articles that are in there, Jamie Claire, Chad Kleinens, Phil, Kyle, everybody that's part of the advisory at Zweig Group writes really well. And so it's always good to read those because I get good ideas. And some of those translate over into other industries. So there's a lot of benefit there. So if you're listening to this and you haven't subscribed to the Zweig Letter newsletter, what are you waiting for? Stop what you're doing right now, plus pause, go subscribe, come back, finish up this episode because we're done now. We're done anyway. So, but thank you so much, Kyle, for coming on the podcast. We really appreciate you. I mean, you've grown a lot, folks. For those of you that when Kyle first started working here, he was an intern, and then he worked with me in executive search for a while, and then moved. I mean, he has advanced, and at every level he has rang the bell of achievement. So I wish you nothing but continued success, my friend. You're now married, you've got kids, a dog, the whole 9 yards. So you are adulting at a high level. So
thanks, Randy. Yeah, you've been able to see it all. So and I've definitely learned a lot from you. So I very much appreciate it.
Oh, absolutely, my friend. Absolutely. Well, folks, there you have it. Kyle Ahern, awards manager at Zweig Group. We put his contact information in the show notes if you want to reach out to him. Again, his email is kahern, AHERN @zweiggroup.com. That's all that we have for you this week. That's another episode of the Zweig Letter podcast. You can learn more about one of the oldest newsletters in the design industry by visiting thezweigletter.com. Read about articles online, listen to this podcast, sign up for a free subscription to the newsletter, and have it delivered right into your email inbox every Monday morning. Just like I said earlier, sign up today. For more info about Zweig Group's advisory services or any Zweig Group publication, visit zweiggroup.com. You can subscribe to the Zweig Letter podcast wherever you listen to it, and please consider rating and reviewing us on Apple Podcasts. I'm your host, Randy Wilburn, and we'll see you soon. Peace.
Thanks for tuning in to the Zweig Letter podcast. We hope that you can be part of elevating the industry and that you can apply our advice and information to your daily professional life. For a free digital subscription to the Zweig Letter, please visit thezweigletter.com/subscribe to gain more wisdom and inspiration, in addition to information about leadership, finance, HR, and marketing your firm. Subscribe today.